Hey everybody, it's Jen from Whole Child Homeschool. I'm going to show you guys how easy it is to make your own Play-Doh. Today we're going to make a no-melt, gluten-free snow dough. This is a recipe that I've been using since the 1990s, back when I was an early childhood speech-language pathologist, back before I was a homeschool mom. This snow dough is a super fluffy, light, bright Play-Doh. I'll show you guys a close-up. You can see the glitter in it. So you might be wondering why I need to make it gluten-free when Play-Doh isn't something that usually needs to be gluten-free. But my two youngest kids have celiac and they can't have gluten on their skin. So if you don't need to make it gluten-free, you can just substitute regular flour for the gluten-free flour and it'll be just fine. Let's get started. First, we're going to start with our dry ingredients. We have a cup of gluten-free flour, and again you can substitute regular flour if you would like. We have half a cup of salt. This is just regular old table salt, nothing fancy. 1 tablespoon of cream of tartar, and you can get this in the spice section. I like to buy it from the Amish in bulk, because it's a lot less expensive that way. And then here we have some glitter, and I just took some leftover different glitters that I had. So there's some silver and a little bit of light blue and mostly like a white iridescent glitter that I'm going to add to it. I'm just going to give this a stir. This Play-Doh, if you don't add white to it, it's going to look kind of like dirty snow. So we're going to add a little bit of paint to it to give it more of a real bright white appearance. You can use any kind of washable paint that you want, or acrylic paint. This happens to be from Constructive Playthings. It's tempera paint, it's washable. So we're going to use half a cup of paint, and a cup of water, and 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. We're going to stir it up. You'll notice I put this all into a saucepan because this Play-Doh does have to be cooked, but it doesn't take very long. Pretty quick, actually. So we're going to take it over here to the stove. So I'm going to cook it over medium-high heat, and it doesn't take very long. You'll want to keep your spoon on the bottom of your pan as you're stirring so that it doesn't stick to the bottom of your pan. And you'll notice that pretty quickly you can see how it's sticking to my spoon. It's starting to get a little bit lumpy. As soon as it warms up, it starts to come together. Just keep stirring. Kind of like Dory from Finding Nemo. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Just keep stirring. You can see that it's starting to thicken up very nicely. Back when I was a speech-language pathologist for early childhood, we weren't allowed to take a lot of toys into kiddos' houses. We were supposed to use what was in their natural environment. And lots of times the houses that I went to, those kiddos didn't have a lot to play with. And so, but their families almost always had flour and salt, and so we could make up some homemade Play-Doh, and then I'd leave it there with them to play with. So it was a good activity to work on language skills while we made the Play-Doh, and then also they could work on their language skills with their parents and their siblings during the week while they were playing with their Play-Doh. It was a great activity and really, really inexpensive. You guys can see that it's starting to get really thick, and this is the hardest part of it actually, where it's thick and you got to keep stirring. It's almost ready. You can tell how it's pulling away from the pan and starting to stick everywhere. Okay, I think it's just about done. You can tell because it looks really dry and it doesn't look so wet anymore. And we're going to turn this out of the pan onto the countertop, and I've sprinkled a little bit of cornstarch on the counter just so it doesn't stick. If you're making this not gluten-free, you can just put regular flour on the counter. I use cornstarch just because it's less expensive than the regular gluten-free flour. Okay, so we're gonna dump it onto the countertop. Now, you'll notice that it's like stuck to the pan and you're like, oh no, my pan is ruined, but it's not. Just put it in some hot water and all that will just come right off. I guarantee it. You won't have any trouble washing the pan. So I'm going to add a little bit more cornstarch to this. You're going to knead it in. Now your Play-Doh is going to be hot. It just came off the stove. But it's not that hot that you can't touch it. It actually feels really good. I really like this part of it because it's like soothing for your hands. It's like hand therapy because it's warm. So you'll see it makes a really nice, really soft dough. And this gluten-free dough is kind of has a texture between store-bought Play-Doh and Model Magic when you first take it out of its package. You know how it's really fluffy feeling? I don't know if you guys can tell from this, but this Play-Doh is really, really fluffy feeling. It's really soft and light and airy. So you just knead it a few times. As you can see, the cornstarch is on my hands, but the Play-Doh doesn't stick to me. That's all there is to it. It's really super easy. I'm gonna let that cool for a few minutes and then I will give it to my kiddos to play with. I hope you'll be inspired by this video to make snow dough for your own kiddos to play with. And if you haven't done so already, please join our Facebook group, which is Whole Family Homeschooling, where you'll get early access to all the subscriber bonuses. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss our next video. Thanks!